What would you do if the only one who could save your life wasn't a doctor, wasn't a machine, but a four-legged friend who simply refused to give up on you? This is the story of a cop who was minutes away from being zipped into a body bag 20 of the country's best doctors, standing helpless around him, and a German shepherd who saw what none of them could see. This isn't fiction. This isn't Hollywood. This is real, and it's going to shake everything you thought you knew about loyalty. So here's what I need from you right now. If this story moves you even a little bit, drop a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching this from? I want to know how far stories like this can travel, because honestly, they need to travel everywhere. Alright, let's dive in. Ryan Carter wasn't supposed to die that day. He was 34 years old, fit as they come, a veteran officer who'd seen his share of danger, but always walked away. He'd survived shootouts, car chases, fights with criminals, twice his size. Death had knocked on his door before, sure, but Ryan always answered with his fists up, not tease time. It was a quiet Tuesday evening. Ryan was home, finally off duty, sitting on his couch with a cold drink in hand. Shadow, his German shepherd and partner of 6 years, was lying nearby, watching him like he always did. That dog never took his eyes off Ryan for long. Some people thought it was just training. Ryan knew better. That was pure love. And then, without warning, everything went wrong. Ryan felt a sharp pain shoot through his chest. His vision blurred. His lungs tightened like someone was squeezing them from the inside. He tried to stand, tried to call for help, but his legs buckled beneath him. D-Room spun the floor, rushed up to meet him. And then, ... nothing. Shadow started barking immediately. Not the normal bark. This was different organt. This bit he ran circles around Ryan's body, nudging him with his nose, whining in a way that would break your heart if you heard it. When Ryan didn't respond, Shadow did something he'd never done before. He howled. Long, piercing howls that echoed through the house and out into the street. A neighbor heard it, called 911, said something was seriously wrong because that dog sounded like the world was ending. Paramedics arrived within minutes. They found Ryan unconscious, barely breathing, his pulse so weak it was almost gone. They worked fast, got him onto a stretcher, started chest compressions right there in the living room. Shadow tried to jump into the ambulance with them. They had to physically hold him back. He fought, growled, snapped at anyone who touched him. But eventually, they managed to close the doors and speed off, leaving Shadow standing in the driveway, still barking, still refusing to believe his partner was gone. At the hospital, things went from bad to worse. Ryan was rushed into the emergency room where a team of 20 specialists waited. Trauma doctors, cardiologists, toxicologists, neurologists, you name it. They ran every test imaginable. Blood work, scans, EKGs, the whole 9 yards. They pumped his chest, shocked his heart, injected medications that should have brought him back. Nothing worked. His vitals kept dropping. His heart rate slowed to almost nothing. His breathing stopped. The monitors, those machines that are supposed to tell you everything, started flatlining one by one. And the doctors, these brilliant, highly trained professionals who'd saved thousands of lives between them. They looked at each other with that look. You know the one, the look that says, "We've done everything we can." At 6:42 in the evening, the head doctor made the call. He whispered the words no one wants to hear. Time of death. He reached for the white sheath, the one they used to cover the bodies, and started pulling it up over Ryan's chest. Outside the emergency room, Shadow had somehow tracked them down. Don't ask me how dogs do that, but they do. He was at the window, paws scratching against the glass, barking so loud they could hear him through the walls. Security tried to remove him multiple times. One guard even got bit for his trouble. Shadow wasn't leaving. Not a chance. And that's when everything changed. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes the universe works in ways we can't explain. Sometimes the answer isn't in the textbook. Sometimes it's not about what you know. It's about what you feel. Shadow felt something. Call it instinct. Call it intuition. Call it whatever you want. That dog knew Ryan wasn't done yet. Just as they were about to cover Ryan's face, Shadow broke free. Someone had left a door cracked open, just for a second, and that was all he needed. He shot through that gap like a rocket, burst into the emergency room, and leaped straight onto Ryan's bed before anyone could stop him. The staff panicked, started yelling. Tried to grab him, but then something made them freeze. Shadow wasn't attacking. He wasn't being aggressive. He was sniffing, frantically sniffing at Ryan's left arm, whining, pawing at it. And then he did something that made everyone's blood run cold. He bit down on Ryan's sleeve and pulled. One of the nurses noticed it first. She leaned in closer, wrinkled her nose. "Wait," she said. "What's that smell?" They rolled up Ryan's sleeve, and there it was, a tiny puncture mark, so small you'd miss it if you weren't looking. Around it, a faint patch of redness. Nothing major, nothing that would make you think twice. But Shadow wouldn't stop. He kept pawing, kept whining, kept trying to show them something. The head doctor, the same one who'd just declared Ryan dead, grabbed a light and examined the area more closely, and that's when he saw it. The redness was spreading, turning darker, bluish-black. Swelling up right before their eyes, his face went white. "Oh my God," he whispered. "It's a venom site. Let me tell you what happened earlier that day." Something Ryan didn't even remember because it seemed so insignificant at the time. That morning, Ryan and Shadow had responded to a routine call at a farmhouse just outside the city. Some livestock had gotten loose. Nothing major. They were helping the farmer round them up when Ryan went into the barn to check if any animals were hiding inside. He felt something brush against his arm, barely noticed it. Thought maybe he'd snagged it on a nail or got scratched by some hay. Didn't even look at it. Just kept working. What he didn't know was that a rare snake, one that had no business being in that part of the country, had slithered into the barn looking for warmth. And when Ryan reached into the dark corner, it struck. The venom this snake carried was slow-acting, designed by nature to be subtle, to mimic other conditions. It didn't cause immediate pain or swelling. Instead, it attacked the cardiovascular system gradually, making it look like cardiac failure, heart attack symptoms, something common enough that doctors wouldn't think twice. That's why none of the 20 specialists caught it. They were looking for all the usual suspects: blocked arteries, arrhythmias, blood clots. They never thought to check for snake venom because the bite looked like nothing. Just a scratch, a book, sting, something you'd ignore. But Shadow had been trained to detect scents, sure, but this wasn't training. This was something deeper. He could smell the venom spreading through Ryan's bloodstream, could sense that something foreign, something deadly, was killing his partner, and he refused to let anyone give up. The moment the doctor said the word venom, the room exploded back into action. "Get anti-venom now," someone shouted. "Which kind?" Another voice called out. "I don't know yet. Just get everything we have." They were moving fast now, faster than before, because they finally knew what they were fighting. They injected the first round of anti-venom, started oxygen again, pumped fluids into Ryan's system to help flush out the toxins. The monitor was still flat, still showing nothing. Shadow never moved from the bed. He stood there, right next to Ryan, like a guard dog protecting his master from death itself. Seconds passed. They felt like hours. And then, one beep. Everyone froze. Stared at the monitor. Another beep. Ryan's pulse was coming back. Faint, but there. His heart was trying to restart. "Come on," the doctor muttered. "Come on, fight." Another beep. Stronger this time. His chest rose slightly. He was breathing on his own. The room went completely silent, except for the sound of those monitors slowly, steadily, bringing Ryan Carter back from the dead. The head doctor looked down at Shadow, still standing guard, and his eyes were wet. "You just saved your partner's life," A sighed softly. Hours later, Ryan opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was white ceiling tiles. The second thing was Shadow's face, inches from his own, tail wagging so hard his whole body was shaking. What ... Ryan's voice was barely a whisper. What happened? They told him everything. The collapse, the failed diagnosis, the declaration of death, and how Shadow refused to accept it, refused to leave, refused to stop fighting until someone listened. Ryan turned his head, looked at the dog who'd spent 6 years by his side, and tears rolled down his face. "You never stopped believing in me, did you, boy?" Shadow's response was simple. He licked Ryan's hand and rested his head on the bed. That moment, right there, that's what this story is really about. It's not just about a dog saving a cop. It's about loyalty that goes beyond logic. Love that defies death. Instinct that sees what 20 trained professionals couldn't see. The news spread like wildfire. Within days, the story of Shadow, the miracle dog who saved his dying partner, was everywhere. News channels, newspapers, social media. You couldn't escape it. And, honestly, the world needed it. In a time when everything feels divided, when trust feels broken, here was this pure, undeniable example of loyalty. Kids started drawing pictures of Shadow. Police departments across the country shared the story, called it the greatest example of partnership they'd ever seen. Letters poured in from around the world. People wanted to meet Shadow, wanted to shake Ryan's hand, wanted to believe that this kind of bond still exists. But for Ryan, it wasn't about the fame. It wasn't about the headlines. When he recovered enough to walk, he did something that surprised everyone. He requested a meeting with every single doctor who'd worked on him that night. All 20 of them. They came nervously, probably expecting blame, expecting him to be angry that they'd missed the diagnosis, that they'd declared him dead. But that's not what happened. Ryan shook each of their hands, looked them in the eye, and thanked them. "You did everything right," he told them. "You followed every protocol, ran every test, tried every treatment. You did your best with the information you had. Sometimes, the best diagnosis doesn't come from a textbook or a machine. Sometimes, it comes from love." Then he turned to the head physician, the man who'd pulled the sheet over his chest, and said something that made that doctor tear up on the spot. "Don't ever underestimate instinct, whether it's yours or a dog's. Because sometimes, what we feel is more accurate than what we know." A few weeks later, Ryan Carter returned to duty. Chateau walked beside him, like always, but something was different now. Everyone who saw them could feel it. The bond between them had always been strong, but now it was something more. Something sacred. And Ryan himself had changed too. He moved differently, through the world now. More aware, more present. He didn't ignore the small things anymore, the tiny signs that something might be wrong. Whether it was with people, animals, or situations, he'd paid attention in a way he never had before. Every call he responded to, every person he helped, he carried that emergency room moment with him. The moment when everyone gave up, when science failed, when hope seemed lost, and one soul, one loyal, stubborn soul, simply refused to accept it. Sometimes, late at night, when the station was quiet and everyone else had gone home, Ryan would sit on the steps outside with Shadow's head resting on his knee, and he'd talk to him. Not like you'd talk to a pet, but like you'd talk to the person who saved your life. "You saw what 20 doctors couldn't see," he'd whisper. "You didn't just save my life. You reminded me why I live, why any of us live. It's not about being the smartest or the strongest. It's about refusing to give up on the people we love." Shadow would just sit there, listening, like he understood every word. So here's what I want you to take away from this. This isn't just a heartwarming story about a good dog. This is proof that some things in this world can't be measured or explained. That loyalty, love, and instinct can sometimes beat logic, training, and technology. That heroes don't always wear badges, or lab coats, or capes. Sometimes they wear fur and have 4 legs and would die before they let you give up. If you believe that animals feel love just as deeply as humans do, hit that like button right now. If you think every life matters, whether it has 2 legs or 4, leave me a comment telling me what you think. And if this story touched something inside you, if it reminded you of a pet you've owed, or a moment when someone refused to give up on you, then subscribe. Because I've got more stories like this. Stories that prove the world still has magic in it, if you know where to look. Remember, Sometimes the greatest wisdom doesn't come from knowledge. It comes from the heart. And sometimes the person who saves your life isn't a person at all.